Thank you for coming. This is a meeting of the Town of Shelburne Board of Civil Authority on August 5, 2019. I'm calling that meeting to order. The agenda has been distributed and posted. There's an item for public comment, disclosure of conflicts of interest, and then the main business of the evening are the tax appeals. And we then, at that point, we'll be receiving the report and recommendation of the inspection committee, who went out and looked at the property in question. The delivery of that report will be done in open session, and the board may choose to conduct its deliberations in closed session as state law provides for a quasi-judicial body like the Board of Civil Authority. And when that is done, there'll be an opportunity to have a discussion about the checklist, guidelines, and any other business. The minutes of the July 8, 2019 meeting have been distributed. Would anyone like to suggest any additions or corrections?
I think we might need
Yes, they were.
But we can also defer on them if that's the will of the board. Or we can do it. We can do it later on under other business. If people may have a chance to catch up on them. Why don't we do that? I'll put a circle around that. That would bring us on the agenda to public comment. Is there anyone from the public here would like to comment to the board, like understanding that the evidence and testimony on the tax appeals was closed at the conclusion of the July 8 meeting? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question on the minutes, and I know they've been deferred, but are these minutes going to be corrected and the corrected copies then reissued? But I've got several suggestions that I think they were just, it wasn't accurate. What Mr. Pratt and I read in the minutes, there are some things that are not accurate on here. So I guess if we're going to go by the minutes and we're going to make that part of the record for your deliberation, I don't know how to help you fix that.
Are these facts
Yes, ma'am.
that you would like
Yes, ma'am.
corrected? I think if they're facts.
I mean, they're very simple. It's not a big deal.
Well, why don't we defer that then to the other business at the end of the deliberations? Unless you want to do,
I can make it quick if you like.
Can you do it in a few minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why don't everybody take good notes?
Let's do it now.
On page 2, 1, 2, second paragraph down, fourth sentence from the bottom of the second paragraph, starting the tax assessor. We'd like you to change that date of 2000 to 2008. Page 2,
Yeah,
Okay.
third paragraph down.
assessor's comments.
Yes.
It was
The tax assessor can
Okay.
redefine a sale or ownership yet in 2000. That should be 2008. Right after that, a $15,000 adjustment. It should be miscellaneous adjustment. Everything we're talking about here is miscellaneous adjustment in quotations. And then
But it was an adjustment.
it was an adjustment. Yes, sir, it was. But we were just trying to cross Ts and dot Is. Added to the property value, and the Lake Champlain transportation property was undervalued. We would like to include proportionately undervalued. And that was what Mr. Nelson said And Mr. Pratt quoted that from his June 28th letter, proportionately undervalued. And those really are the corrections.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
While we're at it, I'd like to add something. Page 3, paragraph 4. No, excuse me. Page 4, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Paragraph 4.
Page 4, paragraph 5. David Webster observed if Mr. Pratt were to sell his properties, he would expect fair market value, not the amount. I basically made that as sort of a question, and Mr. Pratt was in the affirmative that it would be included. He would expect. I would just say, I asked if Mr. Pratt were to sell his property, would he expect fair market value, not the amount of the assessment, less 20, and he agreed.
Anything else, David? Anything else, David?
Oh,
No, okay.
That's it?
Yeah, let's do it. We're on a roll.
Page 5 for the names, the spelling of the names. Yeah. Okay, the ones I'm sure about. David Borman is Boerman. On the page 6, Christy Allen is Christie. And Nancy Clemens Egerton is Edgerton. And when I was searching for Catherine Haynes, she didn't come up, but I have a Catherine Hayes. Could that be this person being referred to? And John.
We could look. Was that H-A-Y-S?
Hays? No E. S.
Oh, Hayes?
No E.
Okay.
And John Street.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Maybe someone said that they live on John Street.
That's what I'm wondering.
Christy Allen lives on
Maybe.
John Street.
Does she?
Yes.
Oh, maybe that's
Lived.
it. Okay, so we'll take out John Street.
Maybe that's where Christy Allen lived, was on
Yeah,
John
we
Street.
think so.
Yes, she did.
Please.
Is that the will of the board to continue to defer action on the minutes and the proposed changes to other business tonight, or do you want to do it now?
Let's finish.
Hmm?
Let's finish the minutes now, I would suggest.
They're done, aren't they?
So the suggestions are, just to go over them, that on page 2, under appellant comments, under the 5th line up from the bottom of appellant comments, is to change the date 2000 to 2008. After $15,000 to insert the word miscellaneous. On the next line down, at the end of that line, to insert the word proportionately. On page 4, in the paragraph beginning David Webster, change that to say, David Webster asked if Mr. Pratt were to sell his properties, would he expect fair market value, not the amount of the assessment less $28,700? The answer was yes. On page 5, we'll change under checklist review the last name of Catherine Haynes to Catherine Hayes, Hays. Last name of Mr. Borman, spell it Boerman. And then page 6, change the spelling of Christy Allen's name, so it's Christie with an IE at the end, to strike John Street, and then for Nancy Clemens Edgerton, it would be, her last name would be Edgerton. So with those proposed corrections, is there someone like to move adoption of the minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Gadju,
I second.
Nancy has seconded. Any debate, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you to our minute taker. I think that was it for public commentary. Is there anyone else who wished to speak to us about that? If not, opportunity to disclose conflicts of interest for BCA members. I'll remind everyone of a communication that I received and one that I sent out shortly after the July 8 meeting, where I have recused myself from the tax appeals, and will be turning over the meeting for the duration of that agenda item to our Vice Chair, Nancy. Is there anyone else who has a conflict of interest type of thing to disclose? Seeing none, I will now turn the meeting over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you, and we'll
And
see
I'll-
you later.
I'll be lurking outside.
Don't forget your
We'll
computer.
keep the door closed. So we
Try to behave yourself.
now have the opportunity to review the evidence that was presented and to deliberate. The first step is to distribute the report, which we have copies of, and probably we can take 15 minutes. Let's try with 10 for people to read this. This goes to everybody.
Yes.
The-
I think we need a couple more this way. And Sandy, yeah.
That's fine. No problem. Copy of the report, Sean.
Another one?
We do have some extra copies if they're, these are the minutes.
This is the report from the inspection committee. Yep.
Did you want the minutes? You have. Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board? Would you, that we have, I think, all the members of the site inspection committee are here. We thank them for their time and effort, and we thank Mr. Pratt for welcoming them. Would you like this read to you while you're perusing? Would you like to do that? Or are you happy to read it by yourselves?
I think it'd be good to have one of the members kind of read it and go along with it. Lead us right through it.
Is that the will of the board? Okay. David, would you like to? And we can take a few minutes if people want to cogitate after we read it.
Okay, report of the inspection committee, date of inspection was, July 18th, 3 p.m. Inspection committee was Bill Deming, Mike Donahue, Laura Gannon, Jennifer Leopold, and David Webster. Properties being inspected, 132 and 142 Penny Lane, and the appellant is Chris Pratt. The inspection committee was met by Mr. Pratt and his neighbor Sandy Combs, who was assisting him with the appeal. The adjacent properties are located on the north side of the northern loop of Penny Lane. Mr. Pratt and Mr. Combs pointed out the virtual boundary lines between the properties and the deck, which is located at the rear between the two mobile homes. The inspection committee was then shown through the dwellings at 132 and 142,
The CAMA sheets indicate that both homes are of average quality with depreciation of 70% and 76% respectively, with which we concur. There is a shed behind 142 and the deck is assessed on number 132. Mr. Pratt spoke about what he considers to be the inequities between the lot sizes and amenities. The inspection committee walked west on Penny Lane toward the lake where we saw a couple of lots that appear to be larger. However, we found the vast majority of the mobile homes to be equidistant from one another, suggesting that although there are a few exceptions, Mr. Pratt's lots share roughly the same dimensions as most lots. Amenities are assessed individually and are not included in the value of the virtual lot. In sum, the committee found no conspicuous variance between the size and general condition of the lots. The median difference in size between lots appears very narrow. We also noted that lake views are not enjoyed from the majority of lots since the mobile homes and sites run north-south and are parallel to each other and to the lake. The common lake view is from Penny Lane itself, which runs westward to the railroad tracks at the bottom of the road. The miscellaneous adjustment of $15,000 exists on the CAMA sheets from before the park's conversion to a cooperative and on the recent history of the park and unit value spreadsheet that the assessor provided. However, the current CAMA sheets list the full 1/64th lot assessment of $28,700, the figure at issue. On inspection, we do not feel that Mr. Pratt's properties are being assessed by a different standard than the vast majority of his neighbors. Mr. Pratt chooses not to be a member of the co-op as is his right under the state conversion law, but will not be an option to the future owners of his residences. Accordingly, we find that although Mr. Pratt does not own the land that his dwellings sit on, he does have a right and an expectation to the use of the land beneath the dwellings. Furthermore, whether he is a member of the association or not, he has the ability to market his units with the same right and expectation, 1/64th ownership of land in the co-op, to be passed on to a subsequent owner. This is therefore reflected in the fair market value of the properties. When asked at the hearing if he would expect the fair market value of his units to include the right to occupy their respective lots, Mr. Pratt answered in the affirmative. He also indicated that his lots are nice and that he expected that the fair market values are actually greater than the assessed values. We further find that the assessor is following the Vermont statute, which was enacted for mobile home cooperatives. Attorney Monahan, in his memo of April 2nd, wrote, "In this case, the town assessor's obligation is to set the parcels in the grand list while incorporating each owner's interest in the common areas and facilities pursuant to 11 VSA Section 1610, which Ted shared with us. The assessor is not permitted to tax the co-op's property as a separate parcel according to that statute." As the assessor also testified, it is a method by which the fair market value of a mobile home situated in a cooperative can be better assessed, as well as a means to base a property tax adjustment on the fair market value, which reflects use of a lot in a cooperative park. Finally, without the subdivision of the park, we do not know of any other way the assessor can assign an equitable lot value to the residences. In general, lots in similar neighborhoods have comparable values within a range, although their dimensions may vary to a reasonable and practical degree. We recommend that the appeal is denied.
Thank you. Would board members like a few minutes to review this on their own? How about if we take 2 or 3 minutes to look things over? Could you let me know when you're done? We're not discussing yet, we're just reviewing. Thank you. For Mike. So have folks had a chance to read through the report or the parts they want just to read through? That's all we're doing now is taking some time. I was wondering if you had had sufficient time, and Bill, you're on the committee, to read through the report. I'm just checking in with folks. Okay, great. So at this point, we're ready to review and discuss the report and deliberate on the evidence that's been presented at the previous meeting at the beginning of the appeal, which we recessed. And we have the opportunity to either do this in a public, open discussion, deliberation, or in a closed deliberation. It's our custom and it's allowed by Vermont statutes, and it's been the way we have done business in order to allow a pretty frank and open and ask many, many questions, to do this in closed deliberative session. I'd like to know the pleasure of the board. It's my recommendation to do this in closed deliberative session, but I'd like to hear from the board. Folks are in agreement on my right. So at this time, we will move into a closed, private, deliberative discussion. I can't tell you how long it will be or how short it will be, but you're definitely welcome. Because there are so many of us, we are not going to get up and move. We are going to ask you to leave the room, and we'll let you know, as well as Tom, that we're finished and have made a decision. At that point, the tally of the vote from the board on the decision and the actual decision, whether we uphold the recommendation of the inspections, the site inspection committee report, or we don't, or we uphold it but it's amended, or any number of options. At that point, will be known and will be in the public record, but we will invite you back in at that point. Yeah, we have, I can't remember if it's 14 or 15 days, but it's within a period of time. Sure. That's fine. So we have a motion on the floor that the BCA, for the purpose of moving into the closed deliberative session for this appeal, and it was seconded by George. And could I have a show of hands, all in favor?
Unanimous?
It's unanimous. Any opposing? Great. So we're going to ask you folks to step out And VCAM, we're going to ask you to show us.
So I guess there was really no reason for us to stay around. I mean, really, but thank you. Okay, I mean, you're going on to the rest of the meeting, yes?
Yes, we're going on to the rest.
Okay, so this is done, you're gonna get a letter in 2 weeks?
Right.
Okay, thank you. No, that's fine.
15 days
Okay,
from
that's fine.
today.
We just thought we were gonna hear the decision tonight and then get the letter.
It's my understanding that some additional drafting needs to be done.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. Okay.
So, Ms. Chair, does the decision go onto the website? Is that how the rest of us find out, or how is that if the letter
Yes,
just goes
it'll
to the
be-
petitioners?
Once the report is finalized, I don't really know the answer to that.
I can let you know.
Okay.
It'll be posted on the website and I'll let you know.
Great,
I can let you
okay.
know.
That would be very helpful, so
Okay.
we're not just checking in, checking in.
Thank you.
It will not, it's very unlikely that it will be this week.
Okay.
Okay, that would take us to agenda item 6, the review and possible action on revised checklist review guidelines. You'll recall, if you were at the last meeting or from the minutes of it, that there was, at least I had offered to take a crack at some further work on that draft. It got away from me and I didn't complete that. And I think the sense I had was that we would defer action on that until another draft is available and people can read it ahead of time and then come to a meeting and work on it.
Just double check with Diana to make sure you have everything from the board that you need to proceed with the work you have to do to purge and update the voter registration checklist. And if that's so, you're saying you have what you need from us.
The only thing I don't have is we're gonna look into the number, put a little note on the outside of their envelope. That would be the only thing I don't have, if the board would like that to.
Didn't come through.
Okay.
I've been in touch with them twice and still haven't received it.
Okay.
I can, not to something on memory, it's helpful.
Okay.
I'm open to wait, I can't wait past a certain date because I need to let the state know by September that we've completed the process.
What's
So-
the way that it was dealt with was on the outside of the
I don't think everybody knows what
Yeah,
we're
what are you
talking
talking about?
We're talking about, other examples of challenge mailings to ensure that people don't open their junk mail. So the way that the piece arrives in the mail says something urgent about this, movie stricken from the rules or whatever it says. But it's clear before you open it that it's not just something that should describe.
What is Medford? Is that a town?
Medford, Mass. I think is,
There.
that's where she's got the idea.
So could we do this by email? Propose something and see what people think?
That was my sense, is to get another draft around, but I don't think,
No, not all the guidelines, but
Sticker.
The
just
sticker
this
on the envelope.
alert, just this one piece of business.
Is it, but weren't we talking about doing a postcard? Or are we using envelopes?
So a letter and a postcard get mailed in an envelope, and they send the postcard back to them.
I guess what I was thinking, well, the question is whether that kind of a change requires action by the Board of Civil Authority at a meeting. That's, I don't know.
Put it in the minutes.
If not, if it's written down in the wire and it's too much, then we can just proceed with it.
Do it next time.
And I don't know the answer to the question of whether it may be something that the town clerk in her capacity has authority to do without the direct decision-making of the BCA. Nancy?
Well, I was going to tie this to the next agenda item as well, any other business. If it seems that the rules for the VCA and procedures haven't been revised since 2015. A few of us looked at them again in 2017, but we didn't really take action or revise them. And having spent some time, and other people spending some time in preparation for tonight's meeting, there are definitely some things we need to take a look at. So I was going to propose that perhaps there be a working group on the rules for the VCAs. And once that group came up with a recommendation, that we have a meeting to review the recommendation of the rules, the working group on the rules for the VCA, the town, our town VCA procedures, and take a look at the checklist suggestions. Do that together in the meeting, unless it can be done by email. I don't think the rules and procedures revisions can be done by email in terms of the discussion that's needed or the eloquent things. A number of questions have come up, which we're all too tired to hear now. Important questions.
Well, what's your pleasure? I could ask now for volunteers for either or both of the checklist review guidelines and the rules of procedure. And anyone who's interested can let me know, and then I'll form one or two work groups to do that. Or do you want to try to hash that out, membership tonight?
I think the group that's been working on the checklist review can remain as a group. And so that's, those recommendations are ready. We can just check in with each other. That's a suggestion I have.
And remind us who's on that.
Kate Cross, David Webster. And then, this is the fourth person. Becky.
All right.
And myself.
Then for the rules of procedure of the board, do you want to try to form a committee here now, or would you like, are you comfortable having people volunteer and letting me put together a group and then telling you who is on it? Or do I need to drive over to your house and talk you into it?
Volunteers are good.
You're on the checklist.
Hasn't changed it yet.
So you want people to let you know?
Let me know if and there's really two, I think there's two sets of rules of order. There's the rules of order for quasi-judicial proceedings, and there are rules of order for everything else that the board does. So, why don't you let me know in the next, say by Thursday or Friday, and if it's awfully quiet, I'll reach out and talk to some people.
The name of that having committee is
Rules of order.
rules of order.
Rules of procedure. Rules of procedure. That's a better. Yes.
On the website, there are the rules of procedure for the property tax appeal.
Right.
But the other rules are not on the website, at least that I know of. So, I don't know if the rules that I know, that Nancy was talking about were the property tax appeals.
Yes.
I don't know if the other ones need to get reviewed.
Well, we'll take a look and see what there is there and proceed accordingly.
And
We've
I'll
got,
volunteer to do that.
okay,
Volunteer.
okay, good.
I volunteer also.
Nancy and Lee. Anyone else looking for something to do around Labor Day? Okay.
Oh, there's no timeline.
I know.
This isn't summer fun, this is fall fun.
Okay. Okay. Any other business?
I think we should all take a moment to congratulate Diana for, tell us what you just finished.
So I just graduated from the New England Municipal Clerks Institute and Academy. And it's a 3-year program.
You get a cool certificate?
We did it in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Oh, not Portsmouth, sorry. Plymouth, at Plymouth State University.
A little bit closer.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
I just want to thank everybody for all their input and help during the past couple of weeks and providing guidance, suggestions, conflicting views, many interpretations.
Good. Then Nancy, thanks for stepping up into a chairing role, maybe a little sooner than you thought you might have to. Are you ready to adjourn? Okay. It's been moved by David, seconded by Peter. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.
No.